Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another thrilling edition of Bragging About Cinema. And we always like to do reviews following a big Marvel movie. And this weekend is the release of Thor Love and Thunder by Taika Waititi. Now, my quick review is if you enjoyed the last one, you're probably going to really like this. And if you're just a giant Guns N' Roses fan, you're probably going to like this movie as well. If you're a big fan of my channel and you've watched for a while, you'll know that with Marvel movies, the comedy is always just right on the cusp of being too much. And I will say this movie takes a wild swing, and there is comedy throughout the entire movie, but it does manage to have an emotional ending, which really brought the movie back for me because when I was watching in the theaters, I was like, oh, I don't know, this might be my least favorite Marvel movie of all time. The jokes were funny, but they were just so over the top to where it was almost a parody of a superhero movie. And then right at the end, they're able to wrap it up with a nice little bow that made me realize that, okay, I like this. It's not the worst. It's still better than the second Thor Dark World. So this movie, what is it about? Here is a god killer. You've seen the God Butcher, and he is plain and simple trying to kill all the gods. So we get to meet a lot of gods from the past that we have seen in probably more mythical stories and not necessarily in Marvel, although I guess they are in the Marvel comics. Zeus being the big one, played by Russell Crowe. And we also get Jane Foster's return, as you've seen in the trailer. And they do use her storyline from the books where she does have cancer. So that does bring the emotional element to the film, which otherwise would have been basically Spaceballs set in the Marvel universe. What I liked about this movie is the pace. This is under 2 hours. So sometimes you're going into a Marvel movie and you're like, oh man, it's going to be a marathon. This one is quick. It moves fast. There's never a dull moment. The action is what you'd expect from a Thor Marvel movie. It's top notch. Lots of swinging swords mixed in with some magic. You get the Guardians of the Galaxy. You go to New Valhalla, and we get to see Valkyrie make a big impact. And so from a Marvel action standpoint, this was great. Chris Hemsworth as Thor. He delivers the more of the comedic, funny Thor that I think is what people love the most. I would like a little more serious Thor, but I don't think we're ever going to get that again, considering the wild success of the last two movies. I really liked seeing Natalie Portman back as Jane Foster. We haven't really seen much of a love story in the last few Marvel movies, so I actually think the love stories kind of round out action films. Sometimes if it's just action, gets a little boring because there's a lot of movies like that. I also really loved Christian Bale's Gore the God Butcher. I wish one thing I would improve on is we get to see more of him. I wanted to see him killing other gods instead of hearing about it. He does play a sneaky, scary character where he's really, you may think he's going in there all swinging his sword. He's actually more of a chess player where he's trying to trick Thor into different things. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see much of an interaction between the villain and the main character. So that is my biggest complaint. I want to see more. Marvel always has a villain issue. I think they had a really good villain in this movie. We just didn't get to see him very much. Instead, it focused on Thor being the crazy, super funny, still recovering from Avengers Endgame, it felt like, Thor guy. It was fun getting to see the Guardians of the Galaxy, although they are not in it for too long. So if you are going in excited to see them, that might be a little disappointing. They do have their own movie coming out, though, soon. So they probably didn't want to plug them in too much. I'm hoping that we get to see Thor with them more because it's been pretty spotty. And they do have a good comedic performance between Chris Pratt and Chris Hemsworth's characters. But this was a Thor movie. Korg was his normal funny self, which is the director, Taika Waititi. And he's kind of developed himself into Thor's just main sidekick. And he is also the narrator for the film, which is kind of an interesting way to tell the story.
Let me tell you the story of the Space Viking.
An underlying theme of the movie really seemed to be that the gods are not going to help you. You got to help yourself. And the opening scene, really, I think they did a great job setting the path and the motivation for our villain. Sometimes it's not always clear. This I really enjoyed. I wish they would explain more about his sword. They kind of give a quick explanation. Russell Crowe as Zeus. He actually wasn't really in the movie too much. Although I will say, stick around for the end credit scene and a sneak peek. If you are a fan of Ted Lasso, definitely keep watching. There was a laugh out loud moment for myself as a huge Ted Lasso fan. My wife doesn't watch that show, and she didn't understand why I was laughing, so it might not be as funny for everyone. The very end of credits scene, I don't know if it's 100% worth waiting around, but it does set up that there could be future installments. And they do say Thor will return at the end, so I'm curious if there's going to be a Taika Waititi trilogy, or if he's just going to see him in another Avengers movie, or if he's going to show up maybe in Guardians of the Galaxy. I don't know. All right, and then one last complaint is these goats. They just scream the whole time. I couldn't stand them. You've probably seen them in the trailer. So I'm going to go ahead. We're going to give this one a solid B. I enjoyed myself. This is the absolute max amount of jokes I could take from a Marvel movie. If there is another Marvel movie that pushes that boundary even further, I probably won't like it. And even if there's another one that comes out that has the same amount of humor, it's going to be tough. Without Jane Foster's story, I probably wouldn't have liked this movie. But it is solid. Let me know what you think. What is it? Do you prefer DC serious, or do you prefer Marvel not so serious? But I enjoyed it. It advanced the story of the Marvel universe. It was pretty self-contained. It didn't really feature anybody outside of the Thorverse. I mean, the Guardians were in it, but we don't know where they went after they split up. So it doesn't really tip anything off to what their movie is actually going to be about. We did see a potential for more Zeus in upcoming movies. So that will be interesting. But there was no a Thanos level setup at the end. So we're still waiting to see, where is the next phase going? So I'd be curious what your thoughts. I think this is going to be one that you either love or you absolutely hate. So give me the subscribe below so we can talk about this, and you can see the next time the next Marvel movie comes out. Thumbs up, thumbs down. I don't care. I just glad you're watching my video. The good news is, now that you've watched my video, you're going to find something to brag about.